Hey YouTube, it's your boy Anime Princess back with a day 7 update on Spark. Today's going to be a little bit more low key and we're going to be talking about some of the finer quality of life upgrades we can be making for our character. So big picture, this video is a lot less important than everything so far. However, we are likely going to be playing Spark for the whole league, so in that context, the information here hopefully will help you out. And I guess after the video, if you realize you have some quality of life upgrades that you've been making that I've left out, please leave them in the comments. I'm sure the viewers would love to read them. You know, I can only touch on so much. Let's hop right into it. All right. Let's first talk about Divergent Inspiration support. Now, the default Inspiration gem quality doesn't really do a whole lot, which makes it a good candidate for alt quality options. The Divergent option gives us 10% reduced mana cost of skills. And this is quite nice on Spark. If you just slap it on, you'll likely lose between 10 and 12 mana per cast, and we will be casting somewhere between 5 and 6 times per second. So if you do the math, you know, that's like 60 plus mana per second less that you have to spend. So this eases the strain on our mana regeneration rate. Now, how would you acquire Divergent Inspiration? You could go and just buy it. That's one option. If the price goes up, you could also use a secondary regrading lens because according to the PoE database, the odds of changing a normal quality into Divergent is equal to changing it to anomalous. And those are the only two options. So it's like a 50-50 with the regrading lens, and you could also just buy it off of trade. Next, let's talk about Ailment Immunities. For freeze, you should be using the Brine King Pantheon. However, you also need to capture the boss where it specifically says cannot be frozen. So make sure you do that. And this will still leave us vulnerable to chill. For chill, my favorite option is using a June boot unveil for movement speed, which is 25 to 30% movement speed, as well as cannot be chilled on the boots. So that's a pretty great upgrade once you are able to fit it in. And it's particularly useful for blue altars because blue altars can reflect ailments back onto ourselves, and we shock and chill, so we're no longer going to have to deal with that. As for shock, if you didn't know, Tempest Shield makes us shock immune, so you know that's solved right there, which leaves us with Ignite. Now, I generally don't worry about Ignite. There are a few cases where there are really bad Ignites, such as there's an Elder Guardian, although this, in like the context of the game, you're not going to run into that very often. I suppose if you wanted to, you could do cannot be ignited on your Call of the Brotherhood, just a ring corruption. I don't think it's necessary. I don't bother with it. And for the alt ailments, I don't bother with that either because jewel sockets are very, very powerful for us. You can get triple crit multi. It's a massive spike in damage. I don't want to be doing the tech where you get ailment immunity with the unique. I suppose I should also mention chaos resistance. This game has gotten tougher and tougher with regards to chaos damage over time. I think to be comfortable, you want to aim for positive 30%. And if you are thinking about transitioning over to low life petrified blood, you will probably want to cap that, which means in any rare gear slot, suffix with chaos res is quite high value. So just keep that in mind as we're upgrading our character. We do want to scale our chaos res. Onto my favorite of the quality of life upgrades, it would be the caster mastery, 25% chance to open nearby chests when casting a spell. And what nearby means is basically the entire screen. So this has really good coverage. And what chests means is basically anything you can interact with. So this is actually a fairly good defensive layer because you want to be casting Spark at all times to kill everything. So if you have to stop to open a chest, that puts you in a vulnerable situation, particularly in cases such as when you're doing Delve. You don't want to stop casting because there's enemies everywhere. You just want to run into the area, pop open all the chests, and then you can pick everything up quickly. You don't have to like manually click on all the interactable loot chests. And this also works for expedition. There's all those little blue chests on the ground that you need to click to get the currency. These will just pop open as you're blasting open the all those monsters. It's also handy for blight. I mean, this isn't so much of a defensive use, but it'll pop open all the blight pods. And for strong boxes, very handy as well because it's a really big range and some of the strong boxes have pretty nasty effects when you open them. So you can open them from a safe distance. Some people say they don't like this for heist. I actually keep it on in heist. The issue with heist is it will open chests if you're nearby them and you can raise your alert. However, Spark shoots off screen, especially like once you get a little bit of investment, you're shooting like 2 screens away. So if you're walking into a room and you know in advance you don't want to open those small chests, just blast the room clear at the door and then run through and you'll be fine. So you can adjust in the situations for heist, but I think in every other situation, you do just love to be opening these chests without clicking on them. You know, saves your hand. You don't need to be moving the mouse all over the screen. So good. The last quality of life thing I want to talk about is the options for cluster jewels. Now, there's obviously some options that just give us a ton of damage, and some people might want that, you know, such as Snowstorm, Sadist when geared correctly. There are also options that just give us quality of life. For example, Doriani's Lesson is a source of lifesteal. We can get power charge generation through Storm Rider. You know, that's 150 crit chance right there. It's 200 if you spec an additional power charge. And there's also the ability to knock back enemies through Thunderstruck. And if you're doing a strat that involves in-your-face enemies that are going to be meleeing you, such as Metamorph or Essence, I'd say this is a really solid defensive layer. So that's something to consider when min-maxing your large cluster. All right, hope you enjoyed this video. Again, if you guys have any other ideas for some quality of life improvements, please leave them in the description. Would love to hear them. Catch you guys when I'm live on Twitch later today. All right, see ya.